gather around the table once again for another session of Dungeons and Drakfus, and today we're taking on the final raid, roughly, of the original Cataclysm content. It's time for us to step into the Bastion of Twilight. So let's go ahead and start. I'm kind of stuttering a little bit. It's been a while since we've done this kind of thing. Yay, it's back! And also, I'm recovering from a bit of an infection, so if I sound a little weird, I apologize already off the bat. Let's go ahead and get things started with the lore of the final intro raid. In fact, the second new one of Cataclysm, and that is the Bastion of Twilight. The Bastion of Twilight stands as a dark symbol of the old god's burgeoning power on Azeroth. Various branches of the Twilight's hammer dwell deep beneath the towering form, considered the cult's foremost command center. Along with their twisted leader Cho'Gall, there he and his servants conspire to bring the old god's apocalyptic visions to fruition. By bleeding Azeroth of all sanity, hope, and life. And what they're basically saying is, like, this is in the Twilight Highlands, but it's basically just this tower, and that's the entrance into the Bastion. So let's go ahead and get things started. Now, we are going to be doing this on 10-player heroic mode, simply because this was one of those few cases where we got a heroic-only boss. And so we're going to be taking on the Bastion of Twilight heroic so that we can take on this bonus boss. So here we are. This is the Bastion antechamber. And like I said, it's 10-man heroic, so there's not too many enemies to take out. And in fact, before we even get things started, I always forget to do this, so auto loot. Boom. Let's go ahead and get started in the Bastion of Twilight. Now, I'm not going to lie, as when I was raiding in Cataclysm, this was actually one of my more favorite dungeons that they pulled out. And the main reason being is it was brand spanking new content. It actually looked really good for Twilight's Hammer Cult content. Oh, I forgot about this. This is where you can occasionally, in my guild's terms, get peed on. Yes. It's kind of hard not to make that distinction when it's a yellow stream coming out of the destination. Let's take care of the nuke these guys out. And I'm getting peed on once again. I'm not even trying to do that, guys, but I mean, what else can you call that aside from a, well, and I was about to say a golden beam of light. That doesn't even work either. One man's explanation is another man's innuendo. Okay, so we've got this opening room taken care of. And this is actually what got farmed a lot of the time, because there actually was a couple of good items to be gained from the trash. So some trash epics that were pretty awesome, and I think one or two of them were best in slot for a while there. Okay, so this is heroic, and our first boss is going to be Halthus Wormbreaker, and this guy was, he was a demon back in the day, and one of the things that made him worse is that if you played him normal, because I believe all of them are unlocked, aren't they? I think they all are in heroic mode. What made him difficult was that you see the various drakes around him. All of these gave various buffs or benefits to him in the battle, and you had a priority to take them out. There's that big proto-drake off in the distance. You can't really do anything about it, but you had to go in the proper order and then take out Halthus. And it changed from week to week, but I believe in heroic mode, all of them are available. So it's been a while since I've actually taken this on, but let's go ahead and do the lore of Halthus Wormbreaker. Imbued with unnatural power and stamina by Cho'Gall, the Etin Halthus Wormbreaker captures dragons for use as fodder in the Twilight Hammer's rituals. To this end, he has enslaved a behemoth proto-dragon to aid him in hunting down his winged prey. And so at that point we have, just to kind of go over these ones, we have a Time Warden, we have a Storm Rider, a bunch of Orphaned Emerald Whelps, you have a Slate Dragon, and you also had the Nether Scion. And I think the Nether Scion was the one that not a whole lot of people worried about. He had a similar debuff to either the Storm Rider or the Slate Dragon, if I remember correctly. But it was like a less priority. So let's go ahead and start up Halthus Wormbreaker, but we probably are going to have to, or maybe not. Maybe they aren't unleashable. I don't know. let's just go ahead and start him and see what happens. Yep. So here's what you got to do. You've actually got to free them. And then what happens is he will eventually take them over and get their benefit. So at this point, we just kind of have to take him out. Oh, actually, we could probably just move him out. Yeah. We don't have to play this right. My apologies. Oh, the only escape, and I got an achievement I didn't have. Defeat Halfus Wormbreaker after defeating 2 drakes within 10 seconds of each other. The Emerald Whelp Pack counts as 1 drake for this purpose. Okay, cool. So yeah, there you go. Halfus Wormbreaker is dead. Is there anything I haven't gotten? Ooh, I haven't gotten that appearance yet. And since it's heroic, they actually do give, what was this, tier 11? Yeah, tier 11, because Ice Crown Citadel was tier 10. So there you go. And fun fact, if you didn't already know this from my previous playthrough, Nefarian also gave a token. I'm trying to remember if there was another one in there in Blackwing Descent that gave one. It'll come to me, but I know for a fact that Nefarian and Onyxia did. So let's go deeper into the Bastion of Twilight. And in fact, they gave the head token, if I remember correctly, for all of them.
The twilight has come.
Wow, shut up.
Endless night.
Deathwing has sundered this world,
Doors once opened never close.
so that its true lords may return.
Master comes. He comes. He comes.
I'm out of range.
So you can see Cho'Gall off in the distance. This is technically the raid where you will take on and defeat Cho'Gall.
Separate the wheat from the chaff.
Unworthy. Unworthy.
I'm not going to worry about taking every piece of trash out. And also, happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good weekend or week so far. For me, it's recovery, 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 so that I can get back to a regular schedule. There we go. We'll go ahead and kill these guys off. You can technically clear the rest of the room for additional chance at trash epics, but we're not worried about that right now. Let's go ahead and step into the next boss room. Which...
Thuralian, put them in their place.
Do as the Master commands, Thuralian! Kill them!
The Master was clearly speaking to you, Valiona. I am far too busy to attack anyone.
You are worthless, Thuralian! Ah!
How dare you call me worthless? You will see why I am Mother's favorite child.
Yeah, these guys tend to bicker. This was called the Twin Drakes fight, but roughly what it is you face off against this Valiona and Thuralian. Now, here's the fun fact. You've actually known Valiona for a while now, because when we did Grim Batal, I can't remember the boss that was in there, but the orc near the end, when he jumped off the edge and summoned a drake, the drake that he summoned was Valiona. So you actually got to see her before you walked into this raid, and now you get to see her at full power. These are 2 fully grown Twilight Drakes, and pretty nasty, actually. And you actually, so you don't face them both at once, but one of them will be up in the air and one of them will be on the ground, and it's a pretty nasty fight, including the fact that I have to deal with heroic mechanics. So let's go ahead and do the lore, and then we'll get this started. So Thuralian and Valiona. Magically aged to adulthood, Valiona and Thuralian were to be the paragons among a new clutch of Twilight dragons, leading their brood and scouring Azeroth of life. Instead, they waste their incredible powers, constantly bickering and fighting each other. Okay, so let's go ahead and take on, I think Valiona is the first one that's on the ground. So, boom! Screw you. And I think we actually want to nuke you pretty hard. Yep. Heroic Valiona and Thuralian. Dead.
Come closer. Closer. Let us see your faces. All will be humbled before his power.
All right, on to the next room. Believe it or not, again, this was kind of the start of doing 3 separate raids and having them kind of small. And so in this case, like a lot of people might expect a full-on Ulduar-esque raid. No, we're actually halfway through it if you don't count the heroic boss. So that's how small these things were. But you guys kind of saw that with Blackwing Descent as well.
Welcome,
There's 5 bosses, roughly?
Frail little children.
Few.
So the purpose of this was just to give more places for people to visit and a grand total of resembling like an Ice Crown Citadel. So in this case, if you put Bastion of Twilight, Blackwing Descent, and Throne of the Four Winds all together, I believe, let's see. Yeah, you got about 12, 13 bosses. 12, 13 if you did Heroic Bastion of Twilight. You could do Heroic for all of those either the same way and just get higher item level gear. But we are now walking into the Sanctum of the Ascended. And this is actually really cool considering the Cataclysm storyline. You've been seeing elementals getting ascended and
It is
corrupted.
here the chosen realize their destiny.
One eternity.
And it is here that you realize yours.
End of the flesh. End of the flesh.
So the Sanctum of the Ascended, we've been seeing these ascended elementals. You're seeing these unbound elemental spirits. This is where we start seeing the ascended, but also the most powerful amongst the ascended. So we have four representing.
The hammer belongs to you.
Fire, water, earth, air.
Leave your mortal shell behind.
Fire, water, earth, air.
Need to get closer.
Embrace your new form. For here and ever after.
Burn and drown and crush and suffocate.
And use your gifts to destroy the unbelievers.
Burn and drown and crush and suffocate.
So this is a council fight. You're actually gonna be facing off against the Twilight Ascendant Council, and basically they have a Twilight Ascendant of each element, and you will be bouncing between them. So right now you only get to deal with 2 of them. The next phase you deal with the other 2, and then eventually they merge all together to create the Megazord of Ascended Elementals. We start things off with the Ludius and Ignatius, the Ascended Lords of Water and Fire, and then up in the balconies you can see Terrestra and Arion, who are of Earth and Air. So let's go ahead and read the lore, and then we'll get started. And the other cool part about this is that they all have a shared health pool near the end, so you have to make sure that you keep the health balanced amongst them. Otherwise, your final phase is going to suck. So the Ascendant Council, as the most powerful Twilight's Hammer cultists to be twisted into elemental beings, the Ascendant Council members have long forgotten their existence as mere mortals. From their wicked sanctum, they oversee the selection of new Ascension candidates. All right, so boom. Let's go ahead and start this up, and we'll take on Feludius because he has kind of some nasty abilities. But basically what's going to happen, once you got to 25%, they swap. So hi, Arion. Oh, and boom.
To have made it this far.
Now, witness true power!
The fury of the elements.
So now you have to deal with the Elementium Monstrosity, which sucks back in the day. Not so much these days. Boom, Heroic Ascendant Council. And no, we don't actually have those gloves, so we'll go ahead and grab those too. So there you go, 3/4 through this raid, and now we're going to enter the inner sanctum of the Twilight's Hammer leader, Cho'Gall. Or at least one of them. He's one of the lieutenants. The big leader is Deathwing. But here we are in his chamber, and you can already see there's faceless ones, so this is probably where a lot of old god crap is going on. Let's go ahead and get into the chamber of Cho'Gall, and I haven't said this enough. I actually do love the Cho'Gall model here because it shows the corruption of Cho'Gall.
Children.
Nothing you have done has...
Born of a master god.
I am trying to speak here.
Words, words, words. The master wants murder.
All falls to chaos. All will be destroyed.
Chaos, chaos.
Your work here today changes nothing.
Chaos, chaos. All things end.
No mortal may see what you have and live. Your end has come.
Those are big words, but this is one of the models that I actually really like because it shows from the comic his corruption via the old god Cthulhu, who we've already killed, because you can see all the eyes that are strewn about his body. Yeah, he is the servant of Cthulhu now, so that's a problem. But first of all, let's go ahead and take care of his Twilight minions who are trying to summon in even more faceless ones. Or as we now know that they are called the Anraki. I think it's either Anraki or Kathraxi, one of the two. No, the Kathraxi are the big crustacean ones. Okay, so these are the Enraki. The faceless ones. The minions of the Black Empire. Okay, take care of you. Oh, screw you. There we go. So now we don't have to deal with these guys. Now, Heroic Cho'Gall was a bear. He's actually kind of a medal in your own right, because if you can't beat Heroic Cho'Gall, there's no way you're going to survive against the final boss. But let's go ahead and go into the lore of Cho'Gall. And as an added bonus, I will probably also try and find a video on Cho'Gall and put it in the description below so you guys can check that out. Let's go ahead and go into the lore. Under Cho'Gall's control, the Orcish Twilight's Hammer Clan was transformed into a murderous cult obsessed with the old gods and their herald Deathwing. Extended contact with this dark master has hideously warped both Cho'Gall's mind and body. And you can even see the eyes are actually moving on the model. That's pretty freaking cool. Okay, so here we go. Cho'Gall, heroic.
From his kingdom.
Almost dead, almost dead. Boom! I don't care about your corrupted adherents. Screw you.
Destiny has come. Too proud. He speaks in blood.
No! He died and he took us down to
It
hell!
is for his glory we serve.
What is
Gone, gone. Come, shades of twilight. Come, madness. Come, havoc. Come, infinite night.
So those are the final words of Cho'Gall. We have since killed him. Nothing really in appearance, but you can see that when he dies, he unlocks a whole new area. This does not happen in normal mode. You do not go down to this chamber. It's only in Heroic, and this is where the Heroic boss will be fought. Let's go ahead and step further into it. You can see it's an egg chamber. That's not good. We have a bunch of Twilight eggs ready to hatch. But this is also what you might consider to be the resolution of the Twilight Highlands quest line, especially for the Red Dragons, because our enemy is our antithesis. Oh,
We were
look at that.
fools to entrust an imbecile like Cho'Gall with such a sacred duty. I will deal with you intruders myself!
So, this is the prime consort of Deathwing, Sinestra, or as she was known back in the day, Syntharia. So let's go ahead and look up her lore. Originally, Deathwing's prime consort Sinestra created the first Twilight Dragons, but was later obliterated by one of her terrifying creations. Now a ravaged husk, reanimated by insidious magic, Sinestra oversees the creation of new Twilight clutches. And you might see all the marks on her body. Yeah, a lot of people have done this on YouTube, but yeah, they had some rough nights when it came to Valentine's Day. Let's just put it that way. Especially with Deathwing falling apart, it didn't really help the process there. So let's go ahead and start up with with Sinestra. I'm actually going to stay fairly quiet because there is lore that's going on here. We're going to get assisted by the Red Dragonflight during this fight. So I'm going to stay as quiet as I can. Here we go.
It's too far away.
I tire of this! Do you see this clutch amidst which you stand? I have nurtured this lovely William, but that life force is and always will be mine! Behold! Power beyond your comprehension!
Heroes, you are not alone in this dark place. Your master owes me a great debt. One that I intend to extract from his consort's hide. You are weakening, Syntharia. Accept the inevitable.
You mistake this for weakness? Fool!
You are weakening, Syntharia. Accept the inevitable.
Drawing upon this source will
There we
set
go.
us back months. You should feel honored to be worthy of expenditure. Now, die!
The fire's dim, champions. Take this. The last of my power. Succeed.
All right, it's time for her to die.
Avenge me.
Fist of Fury!
Deathwing,
There you go.
Target.
I have fallen. The brood is lost.
Yeah, I had to magic cut in on this one because it is a complicated fight and not everything is remembered. So, yeah. There you go. Sinestra is defeated. Let's go ahead and check out what we got here. Shroud of Endless Grief. Nothing that I need. And also you have witnessed the death of Kalen, or Kalistraz. He was actually part of the Twilight Highlands quest line, and unfortunately he tries to help you, and Sinestra eventually just kills him outright. So, but that's actually it for Bastion of Twilight, and that's it for all of the base rating experience that Cataclysm provided. When we get back next week, we're going to start up into the patched content, not necessarily with a raid or a dungeon, mind you, but we're actually going to start up one of the things that is major from Cataclysm, and that is a full-on patch quest line. And we're going to start things off with patch 4.1, Rise of the Zandalari. So when we come back next week, we'll see you then. Until then, stay tuned and take care.